What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Today is going to be kind of different. We're going to be doing a airbrush video, but we're going to be doing it inside my game room in my house. So I'm going to show you around real quick. I'm going to show you what we're doing. I'm going to break it down for you. But I'm excited to be back. Excited to be doing some more art. Haven't picked up anything for a very long time. Feels like it's been months. I think it has been a few months, especially since I've done a video. It's been a long time. So I'm excited to get this thing rolling and get some new work out, even if it is my own inside my house. So I want to show you guys around. A lot of things have been happening. I've been very, very busy. If you guys don't know, my wife and I are having a kid in October. So we have been getting the spare bedrooms moved around and everything situated, and you know, all the furniture that needs to be bought, and I have been converting my upstairs room into my new game room slash art room, and I'm going to show you guys around here real quick. So this room is a lot bigger than what I had before. We are kind of a Halloween house. We love Halloween, so this is something that was left over from our wedding. We have a ton of stuff like this around our house, and I figured these guys would be perfect for the game room in this corner. But there's the closet. I pretty much came through here and I repainted the walls. They were just plain, like a grayish tone color, and I wanted it to be a bright red. So I went through here and I painted everything. This is what took the longest. Was painting everything in this room because I had to mask it all off. And if you've ever painted a room red, you understand, because red just takes forever to cover. I had about 5 coats on this room just to get it to cover. It just took forever. Even with the primer, just took forever. So that's what took the longest, and then everything else was moved in. But over here I kind of got my art station going on here, and with today's project we're doing over here, we got the PC stuff. And then when you turn the corner, we got all the retro stuff lined up here, and most of the games and all that. So I have been wanting to convert this room into a game room for a very long time, because we were not using it. It was just an extra spare bedroom, and it's a big space. It's a cool space. It's upstairs, so it's away from everything. So if I wanted to come here at night, play, whatever, and with us having a kid, I can always come up here with the kid when he's a baby and play. So it's a really nice area for that. I've also got a couch coming. This is just a seat for here for now, but there's going to be a small couch for 2 or 3 people right here. That way more people want to come up here and game. Pretty much got every system you can think of. There are a few that we're missing, but that's kind of what we do. You know, we play games during the winter time. We get a lot of bad weather, so the winter time we game a lot. So, but for today's video, this is pretty much the room. So today's video, we're going to be starting on this big mural. Now, the sun is not cooperating with me, so I'm going to put so that kind of helps. There's a big window right here, and I've got a curtain just hanging right here to block the sun. It's just really bright, and you can't really see anything. So I've already went ahead and I've prepped everything, and I've got everything laid out. And what I usually do is most of the time I'll just get a chalk pencil and I'll just chalk everything out, as you can see. So I first did the background on this, just kind of blocking in with regular paint. I wasn't using anything really fancy. I actually was just using the cheapo paint you can get from Walmart, a few colors, and I just started blocking in the background, getting it to be somewhere close to where I wanted it to be. And then I started laying everything out with a chalk pencil. So if you can guess the theme, this is going to give it away, if you guys can see that. It's kind of dark in here. I might let some light through. If I do that, it's going to be a little bit too much. Might be able to see a little bit better. but this is gonna be the start of a huge mural on this wall. This wall is pretty big. You can kind of see the size of it. And one of my plan is to wrap it around with different video game related stuff and characters and things like that. But Elden Ring is the subject matter. We're going to be using different characters from the game. We're going to be putting them, this is not all what we're doing. I'm going to put some more characters around here. I'm going to let it flow to the sides and then wrap it around where the main door is. And I don't know how far I'm going to go over there, but I want to wrap it around both sides. Just different video game characters and art and things like that. Maybe like a design flowing through the whole room. Just something rather than just putting posters up. I've got a lot of posters that I've got that I could hang up, but I thought, you know, why not just paint something and do a little video on it and do something a little bit different than what you see in most game rooms. So that is the plan today. And how I'm going to do this is, it's a huge wall. So my thinking is, usually when I do something really big, I'll work in little islands. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the bottom with this character, and we're going to do a video each time on each subject and kind of do the middle one time and do the very top the last. Sometimes I do everything at once depending on the color I have. I'll just go through and start working it in there, but I'm going to start doing each subject matter within the mural video by video. That way we can focus on one set. So I'm probably going to put you guys on a time lapse and get you guys, you know, that way I don't bore you, because it is going to take a long time to get this stuff mapped in and get it done to where I want it. So I'm probably going to put you on a time lapse, so just be aware of that. It is going to be probably a shorter video. I might not draw it out as long. Sometimes my videos take a long time because this stuff does take a lot of time and effort. So I'm trying to narrow that stuff down for you. That way it doesn't bore you, and it'll show you a little bit of what the process is for something like this. Now, you've been watching my channel for a very long time. You'll know that I shoot House of Color, and that I usually do use House of Color and everything, but paint is very, very expensive right now, so I am not going to be using House of Color, and especially since I'm inside. I really don't want to be breathing that stuff and, you know, getting the house smelling. So today, well, on this wall in particular, and we're going to be using a different type of paint. I've used this stuff in the past. That's what I started out using when I first started airbrushing, and it is Createx. This is a waterborne paint system. It's really great stuff. I've got Wicked colors here, and I got some illustration colors, and I've got some reducer. So that is what we're going to be using inside on these walls. It doesn't, I mean, obviously this stuff's going to smell a little bit, but being a waterborne paint, it's not going to be like a solvent. It's not going to really stink as bad as what the solvent paints do. So that is why we're going to be using this stuff. I pretty much got my primaries, and then I've got like a cool green. I can mix them with black in some areas, but got the primaries. We're just going to be custom mixing everything, and we're going to start with that bottom picture, and we're going to get this thing rolling. So I want to take a second right now and apologize. I'm noticing that the light in this room is really, really bad, so it might be really hard to see. But I'm going to break down what I'm doing and kind of show you. It's just really hard to see in this room. If I put you know, too much light in this room, it just blurs everything out. If I don't put enough light in this room, it's really hard to see in a video of what I'm doing. So I'm gonna go over it with you real quick, what exactly I'm doing of what you saw just now. So what I'm doing is I'm just mapping everything out pretty much. I've got a dark black, jet black actually, with over reduced with some blue in it to kind of calm that black down. I do this so it doesn't come out. Some blacks on different types of colors turn out kind of like a brownish tan from the overspray and all that other stuff. So I always put a little bit of blue. It's a little trick if you didn't know that already. So put a little bit of blue in it, kill that black, dye it down a little bit, and then over reduce it when you're mapping stuff out. So I'm just going through, hitting all the shadows and making sure I've got all the shadows and shading done. And you can kind of see I've got the cloak done, shadowed and everything. Moving on up. Pretty much did everything that's dark right now. I always try to do the darkest first. You can do the lightest if you want to. There's the sun again. You can kind of see a little bit better. Just too much sunlight coming in right now, so I'm gonna kill this for a second, wait till the sun goes away, and then we'll come back. But it's just all the shadowing and all the darkest spots I'm hitting right now. Then I'm gonna dye it down. I've got to actually a reference picture right here of what it should look like. So it's kind of like a purpley gray tone, a darker gray tone with some purple in it. It's probably just blue, to be honest with you. The way the light's hitting it over here kind of shows you a little bit of that bluish purple. So it's got all this texture, cool texture stuff in there. I'm going to go ahead and add that as well. But the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this same color, all this dark area that I've hit, and I'm going to go through and use that same black. I'm going to tone it down with a little bit of white. I'm going to add a little bit of blue in there, and I'm going to mix it into a really, really light grayish purple. So that is the next thing I'm going to do right now. So I got all the blocking in done the way I want the blue color and kind of the purple tone coming through it. It's got a lot of textures in it. I don't know if you guys can see those on camera. But the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to some of the ridges, especially around here, this area, it's got like a brownish gray color. It's a lot lighter. It's almost not that blue. That it's only blue because there's a light reflecting off of that's blue, so that's why this is all shaded in blue. But there's a lot of it that doesn't have that lighting, so it's got like a grayish tan color to it. So that's the next color I want to mix up, and I'm going to start hitting these and putting some more detail in the areas, especially on her cloak here. It's got a lot of that brown showing through. It doesn't have as much blue, and I'm going to kind of dye some of this down as well, and that texture is going to really come out. And then after I get done with that, it'll be ready for this darker bluish black that I had going on here. And I'm gonna really over reduce it. And then I'm gonna start adding all these textures in here to this cloak, and then it's gonna really pop after that is done. And then we can start the face. So before I explain how I did this, I just want to say I'm sorry for the lighting in this video. I know it's really poorly at the beginning of the video. I have a big old window right behind me that just brings in a lot of light, and it just whites out everything. Or if I put a curtain over it, it just makes the room really dark. There's really only 2 lights in this room, and it's a pretty big room, so it's just not good lighting around here. So I just want to apologize for that. So I'm going to go through my process on this as far as what I did that you guys did not see. So we left off with just putting the texture in the cloak, and then we left off from going through putting the highlights in there, putting the grays in there, and the different colors, and adding more texture on top of that, and doing the face. So what I did was I just got a really reduced, kind of like a medium gray, and I started adding the textures in to the outer edges of the cloak to add the textures and the highlights and all that fun stuff to make it look like more realistic. So you can go through here and you can see the frayed edges and the lowlights and the highlights and all the shadows and shading and everything in here. It really made it stand out. And then I went through everything else, and I also did this in the wrinkles of the cloak on the cloth. Then once I had that all in there, I went back in with the really over reduced black, and I just started shadowing and shading. And the way I do this, a lot of guys will just freehand it. I just freehanded it. It just takes a lot of time because that's a lot of area. It may be really skinny, it may look really skinny, but it is a lot of area when you're doing a big piece like this. This is my hand, and I have really big hands, so you can just tell how big this character is on this mural wall. So it just takes a lot of time. You got to take your time. Make sure if you're going off of a reference photo, make sure you have that right next to you. You pull it by your phone, or if you got an iPad or something like that, you can do that. Just make sure you have that reference photo and follow it and try to mimic it as good as possible. To me personally, freehanding this small detailed stuff, it just makes it look more natural rather than if you would use a stencil or anything like that. It just creates too much hard edge lines. Some areas you're going to need that, like in here you can see where I've done some hard edge lines, and up here. But pretty much you want it to look like a smooth surface because it is cloth. And then I just went through and started adding more textures in here because I had the light gray, which was lighter than the blue, and I started compounding everything and then putting it right over top of that blue that we had down before. And once I had all that done and the black all shaded and shadowed, I did the same thing with the over reduced black. I went in here and I just gradually went in, added a little bit more texture, a little more details, like up in here, and made it fade because it does go solid black almost over here because of the shadow. So you got to look for that too in these reference photos and what you're doing, because a lot of times you can bump up the contrast in some of these photos and they're really not totally black. It's just black because they're either standing by something or something is, the light's coming through and it's the back side of this cloak here is blocking it, causing a shadow. So you gotta be really careful. This one, you can see a little bit, I added some textures in here. It wasn't totally black until it got up to here. So you gotta be really careful with that, and that's why I used over reduced black and just kind of shadowed this because it didn't knock it out altogether. And I did the same thing inside the hood and on the wrinkles of the clothing and then the ring that she's wearing. And then once I got all that done, I started working my way up to the, I think this is just a shirt she's wearing underneath this, is what I'm getting at. So I started doing this with just a really light yellowish white, and I just started blocking it in, add some textures in there as well. And the way that I do textures is I like doing textures first and then going back and adding the shading or anything on top of it in a really over reduced paint. That way the details don't get covered up. I don't know if you guys can notice it, but there are, it looks like cloth because there's textures in here that I put in here, like up in here and right here, and they kind of fade out right here because the shadow kind of covers it. So that's how I usually do them. I saw an artist do this a long time ago, and it just makes it look more, it makes it look more pleasing to the eye. It makes, you know, when you're looking at this, it actually looks like, you know, that's a piece of clothing. So I always do my textures underneath and then over reduce it and start shadowing and shading and all that stuff on top of the textures. And then I work my way up to the face. Now the face, it's a skin tone color, and I pretty much just kind of winged it. I've made a lot of skin tones. I've done a lot of portraits in my career, so I have a feeling that I'm pretty good at making skin tone colors, you know. So I took pretty much what I did was I take the same color because it had a little bit of yellow in it, and I put more white in it, and then I put 2 more drops of yellow that was already in here. So it only had like 3 or 4 drops of yellow in this total mix. And you remind yourself, I'm only mixing up very little in my airbrush for this because it's not a big area. And then what I did was put 3 or 4 drops of just straight red in it, and that's what gives you that peachy red color. And then I over reduced that, and I started just blocking it in, and I went back and put a little more red in it, and I went back in here and started doing these kind of shadows and her lips, anything that's a little bit darker. And then after that, I went back with a really, really over-reduced black with a little bit of this darker red, this peachy red in here. And I started shadowing it. I made it so over-reduced that it didn't block it out. It just kind of, you can see the gradient in here. You can see it really solid, then it kind of go and fade out. That's what happens when you do an over-reduced color. It allows you to build it up, and then you can fan it out and make it look really smooth and transitional. And that's the trick to this stuff. And then I just went around and went through and hit the shadows and all that stuff. Then I went back through the whole thing and looked at everything. And then I did the ring. That was just pretty much white and over reduced yellow to make it look like it's goldish. And then I added the highlight on the hood. Now I did the highlight on the hood here. I always like doing that. It kind of finishes the piece. If you're doing something in the background, it makes this come forward and it makes it look like there's a light hitting it. And I did this for one reason. And the next video, I want to move on to the next thing. I'm going to show you it right now. We're going to skip the middle ground here. We're going to go up to the top of this. So it's got the Elden Ring symbol, and it's on fire. So this is what I'm going to tackle next, because I'm really excited to do this because it is fire. So it's going to be really cool to do this. And we're going to do it in bright yellows and oranges and make it look like it's really on fire. So when I do this, the reason why I put this highlight here is I'm going to use the same color that I use on this, and I'm going to just barely over reduce the paint and highlight this to where the reflection of the fire is going throughout the entire photo. And that's another reason why I want to do this next, because when I do this, I'm going to do the same thing. Like this guy's going to have a little bit of glow, and it's going to be the same as if it's reflecting off of everything. So that fire is going to reflect off everything around it. So that's the goal, but I'm gonna call it pretty much done on this one, besides adding the glow to it from when we do the fire. But I think it came out really killer. It looks really awesome in person, and I'm really happy with it. So like I said, I'm using all Createx paints, the Wicked and Illustration. If you want to try and mess with those, are really good paints. They're water-based paints, so they're not solvent, so they don't smell as bad as solvent paints, so you can use them indoors. They're indoor friendly. They do still smell, but you just reduce it right. You always want your paint consistency to look like milk. That is the key. And if you need to over reduce it from there on out. And you know, you can pretty much do whatever your mind can think of. But yeah, that's it for today's video. Appreciate you guys watching. The next video, like I said, we're going to be going up north and knocking out this fire ring symbol for the Elden Ring mini, or it's not a mini, it's a big mural. So stay tuned. I appreciate you guys watching. Until next time.